literacy, basic literacy. If we do that for our people, we can now use the youth budge. It can become an advantage and not a cause. But if we don't do that, it is going to become a bomb because we have too many youths in Africa.
Absolutely, 100%, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for those opening remarks. Please help me to thank him. So I think for me, what is really eye-opening is the fact that you, Your Excellencies, are breaking down what has traditionally been a taboo subject amongst African societies, talking about menstruation, talking about what those girl children go through, and not talking about what it means for them to be equal participants as a result of that being a taboo subject. Thank you for breaking it down. We totally appreciate that. But I wanted you to add a little more. You spoke about the importance of access. But how do we ensure that that access is equitable? Because you spoke yourself about the disadvantage of the girl child. And we also know that children who come from poor families are at a disadvantage. I come from such a background. Until one of us, my brother, was educated, we were all destined to stay in the rural areas. We broke the poverty cycle because we got access and it was equitable. How do we ensure that on a bigger scale across the country, across the continent?
Access to education. Equitable. Equitable. U-turn. Now, girls become pregnant, we attend on to the point that they can no longer stay in school, and once they give birth, we make sure they go back to school. And interestingly, they have been performing extremely well because they realize they have made the mistakes. And most times, the mistakes are done with adults, people who are supposed to know better. But we blame the child, we blame somebody in 13, 14, 15 years old, you know, and we want her to carry that blame of or sin for the rest of our life. I think that is so. One of the things we have done is to make sure that whether you are in the village, you can access education, and we are building the necessary digital infrastructure. We have trained more teachers for quality, and also to make sure that they can go as fast as they can to be able to give the quality of education. Because what we have to do in Africa also is not just education. It must be fit for purpose education. Education that we meet the needs of the future, a digital economy. That is what we are entering. So the things we have done as when we were in school, which we are forcing our children to do, are no longer good for them. So we must look at the future and make sure that our children are acquiring the skills that will make them relevant for the future, not what we did. And that is what most of us as parents do. I did law, I want you to do law. I did medicine, you have to do medicine. No. I think you have to discuss with them. And what have we done? The youth who are going out, 30%, 33% of my cabinet are young people. When I say young people, they are youth. 33% of them are also women. I've also passed an act which is, we call the WEWE Act, which makes sure that 30% of all parliamentarians must be women. 30% of all ministers should be women. And I just appointed my cabinet, and I made sure I complied to that because I passed that bill. And in the corporate world and in other fields of endeavor, we are making sure that nothing less than 30% for now, because this is the very first time we are taking this bold action. Yeah. They are women, right across the region. That is the beginning of making sure that the women feel part of us and they can contribute. After all, their population, they are more than 50% of our population.
100%.
So it's like trying to do boxing with one hand behind you. Even a lazy man like me can fight any boxer with one hand behind him.
Absolutely. You're going to lose. You can't do it with one hand. Your Excellency, thank you very much for those thoughts. Thank you. Thank you. And it's interesting. It sounds like, again, you were listening to the youth that were attending this seminar that I told you about. One of the things they said, you know, children speak sometimes a little too forcefully. So they said, we demand that there must be a quota for young people in every cabinet in Africa. And I see that you have already started that work on your front. Thank you very much. Let's please allow me to invite Her Excellency Mariam Chabi Talata, Vice President, Republic of Benin. Again, ma'am, I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts on the summit and the work that we are doing, or that we need to do. I think that's the more important part, what we really need to do, before I invite you to answer my very specific question for your country. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je commence par présenter mes remerciements à Madame la Présidente de la République unie de Tanzanie pour l'accueil, l'hospitalité. Je présente mes hommages aux chefs d'État et de gouvernement ici présents. Je salue les vice-présidents et les premiers ministres ici présents. Le thème qui nous unit ici est le suivant. Sommes-nous vraiment prêts à investir dans le capital humain? Moi, je viens d'un petit pays, géographiquement parlant, c'est la République du Bénin. Nous sommes tellement petits que pour nous rendre visibles, nous nous appuyons sur le géant qui est à côté de nous. Chaque fois que je rencontre quelqu'un qui ne connaît pas bien la région ouest-africaine, qu'il me demande d'où je viens, je suis obligée de dire, je viens d'un pays qui est à côté du Nigeria. Vous voyez? Et ce pays, tout petit géographiquement parlant, rien que ce n'est que 112 000 km². Ce pays a de grandes ambitions. C'est un pays qui, depuis 2016, rêve de se révéler au monde. Mais comment se révéler au monde quand on n'a que 112 000 km²? Quand on n'a pas de ressources minières, comme le Congo, comme nous investissons humains, notre pays soit visible. Nous avons été colonisés par les Français. Et au niveau de notre pays, le Bénin, c'est l'enseignement général qui l'emporte sur l'enseignement technique et professionnel. Cela veut dire quoi? Que pendant 6 décennies, au niveau de notre pays, nos jeunes ont été formés pour de longues études qui ne donnent pas droit à l'emploi. Et notre pays, le Bénin, pour aller de l'avant depuis 2016, a fait le choix de réformer son système éducatif, de faire en sorte que les tendances s'inversent. Par le passé, 70% de notre population scolaire se retrouvait dans l'enseignement secondaire général. Nous travaillons cette fois-ci à inverser les tendances, à faire en sorte que 70% se retrouvent dans l'enseignement technique et professionnel. Mais en faisant quoi? En prenant un certain nombre de mesures. Les Béninois sont connus pour leur engouement pour les études, leur engouement pour les longues études, parce qu'on croit que c'est ça qui fait l'homme. Quand tu ne vas pas très très loin dans les études, tu n'es pas considéré. Alors que maintenant, nous avons constaté qu'on peut aller très loin dans les études et rester chômeur toute la vie. Nous travaillons à y mettre un terme, en faisant en sorte qu'il y ait de la qualité dans l'enseignement que l'on donne. C'est la raison pour laquelle nos premières actions en 2016 ont été d'arrêter les créations anarchiques d'écoles et de collèges. Les villages réclament des écoles, même s'il n'y a que peu de gens pour y aller. Les villes réclament des collèges. Depuis 2016, nous avons suspendu cet élan-là, parce que ça ne mène nulle part. Parce que pendant que l'on réclame la construction d'écoles, la création d'écoles, nos établissements du secondaire, le problème de la qualité du capital humain dépend souvent des enseignements qu'on donne à ceux que l'on forme. Chaque élève est à l'image de son enseignant. Ça n'a pas été facile. La lutte pour la qualité n'a pas été facile. L'évaluation n'a pas été facilement acceptée par nos enseignants. Il y en a même qui ont résisté, qui ont refusé de se faire évaluer, qui ont été radiés parce qu'ils ont refusé de se faire évaluer. Si c'est le prix à payer, il fallait le payer. Tout récemment, il y a eu des pourparlers qui ont permis donc de réinsérer certains. Mais il fallait évaluer chaque enseignant. Et ceux qui n'ont pas les compétences requises au niveau des enseignants ont été soumis à des formations. Ils ont subi des formations dans ces écoles-là. Nous avons au niveau de notre pays conscience du fait que un adulte équilibré demain, c'est un adulte qui a eu une vie saine pendant son enfance. Et notre gouvernement investit énormément dans les cantines scolaires. L'année dernière, j'ai représenté le chef de l'État, le président Patrice Talon, en Italie. Parce que notre pays, le Bénin, a été désigné champion mondial de l'alimentation scolaire. 75% de nos écoles ont une cantine scolaire. Notre ambition, c'est de faire en sorte que tous les villages, toutes les villes plutôt, aient des cantines. Aujourd'hui, nous avons couvert la plupart de nos villages en cantine scolaire. Il ne nous reste que les villes. Voilà.
That's great work. That's great work. That's great work, Your Excellency. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very interesting how you have dealt with the issue of teachers. I live in South Africa, and we have a very strong trade union, and the issue around trying to make sure teachers are competent and they are assessed and they do their job consistently. It's certainly been a very thorny one. Great lesson. Hopefully they can take that lesson as well. Before I let you go, one more quick comment, very quickly if you can. Have you had to deal with the problem of higher dropout rates for school children, especially amongst girls? I want to know how you have dealt with that one. Dropout rates amongst the children that you get into school. You explained that you have a problem of overcapacity, but I imagine even in that overcapacity, you still have other children that don't come to school when they are supposed to come to school.
S'agissant de l'abandon, de la déperdition scolaire, surtout la déperdition filles, nous mettons en œuvre une gamme variée d'activités. Nous savons que certaines filles abandonnent les écoles, la scolarité, parce qu'elles n'arrivent pas à trouver les conditions adéquates d'hygiène au niveau de l'école. Depuis 2020, la première dame de notre pays, à travers la Fondation Claudine Talon, met en œuvre un programme de distribution de couches aux filles pour limiter les taux d'abandon. Nous sommes aidés par l'UNICEF qui, depuis des décennies, accompagne notre gouvernement en mettant à la disposition de nos filles des kits scolaires composés de livres, de manuels, de cahiers et d'un petit budget pour les charges diverses de l'école. Nous sommes également appuyés tout récemment par la Banque mondiale qui nous aide à mettre à la disposition des filles scolarisées du primaire et du secondaire un fonds. 30 000 filles sont impactées par ce fonds. Les filles du primaire reçoivent par jour 350 francs CFA et les filles du secondaire 450 francs CFA pour les accompagner dans leur scolarité. Ce sont là les actions que nous menons au niveau donc des populations scolaires féminines pour limiter les taux de déperdition. Mais ce n'est pas tout. Depuis 1990 au Bénin, les filles du primaire et du secondaire ne payent pas la scolarité. La scolarité est totalement...
Government of the United Republic of Tanzania, and in particular to thank President Samia Hassan for the excellent arrangement which they've put into this for those who have arrived just today, I have to say they missed a lot because of what we saw at the dinner yesterday. I see President Chakwera is regretting. We had magicians literally dancing, I don't know what to say, standing on their head, on top of another head. It was marvelous. But now coming to the subject matter before us here, I think it has already been said that it's not a question of whether you want to invest in education or whether you are ready. You have to invest in education, especially if you are in African state. If you look at the proportion of youth relative to the entire population, you can say that if you did anything other than invest in education, you'd be playing with fire. Schools are short of, they have certain disadvantages. They may not have computers, they may not have libraries and laboratories, basics like electricity and water, which we take for granted in towns, but they are short in rural areas. You could talk about the teacher-student ratio, but if you don't have these facilities, it means nothing. The figures will just be deceiving you. In Eswatini, we have made very major strides in as far as investment in education is concerned. In our National Development Plan, education, that's 2023-27, education is one of the major pillars of this plan. We want to foster social and human capital development and nurture skills base able to adopt innovative technology. A lot has been said about the fact that today it is technology, not just education that matters. Eswatini was amongst the first countries to be a member of the World Bank Human Capital Project Initiative. Human capital is one of two high-level objectives of our plan. In our country partnership program with the World Bank, we have put a lot of emphasis on education, especially primary education. In Eswatini, since 2010, effective, created tertiary institutions, post-tertiary institutions such as TVETs and other colleges that teach skills-based kind of learning. Because what we see is that when people drop out, maybe after secondary school, they tend not to have the right skills for the job. So we have training that we get from different countries that help us with this, and we teach these skills to the schools so that the children who leave school and are not yet ready for work, they can be trained. Even illiterate people, motor mechanics, electricity, and all sorts of things like that.
Sure.
So this is what we are trying to motivate and encourage. But we will continue to invest again in even at high.
I think the issue around skills is an important one. I can tell you that we have a small newsroom in our team in Johannesburg, and the kids that are coming through from the universities, we struggle to get them to quickly integrate and become active participants in generating news. So there needs to be something done to connect the TVET colleges and the actual work environment. It's a continuing challenge across the continent, there's no doubt about that. But I wanted to ask you to talk to a small little tabunyana subject, since we are touching taboos today. How do we work with culture to ensure that while we're respecting our cultural norms, we are also at the same time ensuring that every child who's entering this new age of technology and other things does so from a position of strength? I ask the question because traditionally our cultures have, as we have all been hearing here, looked down upon the girl child.
Thank you. I think in our environment, we are seeing less and less of that discrimination, especially at school-going level. I don't know, I cannot say the same as people progress in life, in parliament, in promotion, but at the level at school, that discrimination is probably not as explicit as it was in the past.
Let me be more explicit, Your Excellency. I was trying to say that are girls exposed to the same skill set opportunities as the boys? I.e., can that girl who dreams of being an aeronautical engineer be able to do so at the same time that a boy child is able to do so? Because we have seen a situation where girls are not getting some of these opportunities.
I suspect they lack role models. It's because she does not have a role model. She has the perception that it is a man's skill, and that is something that needs to be addressed. I think a role model, even in the family, if you are a mechanic or a doctor and the mother is a nurse, the tendency is the boy child will want to be a doctor. So I think this is the attitude that we need to address almost directly. But in terms of financing at school, the opportunities should be the same.
I totally agree with Your Excellency. Thank you. Thank you. So we need to normalize it, that a girl child gets as much chance as the boy child. We need to make it an everyday thing. Thank you, sir, for your contribution. Let me move on. We have two excellencies remaining that we need to get to and get their views. May I invite His Excellency Hamza Abdi Bare, Prime Minister, Federal Republic of Somalia. Before you start, Your Excellency, I wanted to tell you that I personally have adopted Somalia as my country in terms of our coverage, because I know where Somalia is coming from. 1991, I was in Nairobi covering that war. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, brother. Esteemed heads of states and governments, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be amongst you today here as we discussed a question that is important to our future of our continent. Are we ready to invest in the education and productivity of African youth? The answer I have been contemplating is we have no choice but.
May I also request Excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners present to please join on this picture. Excellency ambassadors and high commissioners present to kindly join on this picture. The next picture will be of all the ministers present, and the final picture will be Secretariat. Can we give a room for the ambassadors and high commissioners to kindly pass? Thank you. Excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners, kindly for the next pictures. Honorable ministers, you will take the next picture. As they come, I would like to pass them an important announcement that the presidents, the VVIPs, will be led by Chief of Protocol for lunch, but this will also include foreign ministers and heads of delegation. Other ministers and diplomatic corps will have lunch on the 3rd floor, Kilimanjaro Hall. The rest of us, we shall take our lunch at the marquees outside. Can we use on my left? Can we come through this side? As I allow the ministers now, request the ministers to come through to the stage through the stairs and stand at the back. Please, if you can move slightly this side. Honorable ministers, there's more space on this side, kindly.